grew up in Texas my entire life. I grew up with my mom and dad, and I was unfortunately an only child. I grew up feeling lonely as I did not have any siblings. We lived on a ranch far out in the middle of nowhere, and I went to a school not far from the ranch. There weren't many kids that piqued my interest at my school, so I made little to no friends at all. A few months went by, and my family and I moved into the city of Texas, popularly known as Houston, Texas. We moved there because my dad came up on a job offer that my parents could not overlook. We went from living on an isolated ranch to a residential neighborhood. It felt really weird living house to house, but I eventually got used to it. My dad became good friends with one of our neighbors, and I became good friends with my neighbor's 3 children. They were all relatively around the same age as me, and surprisingly, they all piqued my interest, as we all had much in common. Our neighbors had an old golf cart that my new friends and I would ride pretty much every day. My neighbor checked this golf cart out with a new motor, so it went pretty fast for a golf cart. My friends and I would ride around our neighborhood in this golf cart, and I would be the one to drive because I was the oldest. One day, our neighbor hosted a block party and my mom and dad both attended, while my 3 friends, you guessed it, went to ride off in the golf cart. This time, instead of riding in our neighborhood, we rode down the sidewalk to a golf course field that was across the street from our neighborhood. This was a huge golf course field. It stretched for about 120 acres. My friends and I drove alongside this elongated sidewalk that was right alongside the golf course field, cruising in our tricked-out golf cart. As time went by, I noticed that it was getting pretty late. My mom and dad had already set me a curfew, which was 8 p.m., and it was nearing 7:30 p.m. My friends and I decided to head back, but before we could even reach our neighborhood, my friends stopped me. They told me that they were going to a house party. I asked them if they wanted me to drop them off at home, and they declined, saying that one of their friends would pick them up from where we were. So I turned the golf cart's ignition off and we waited on the sidewalk. Eventually, I saw a blue pickup truck speeding down the road towards our direction. It abruptly stopped, and I assumed that this was the person that would pick my friends up for the house party. I was correct, as I could see in the pickup truck a bunch of drunk teenagers dancing and music blaring from the truck's loudspeaker. My 3 friends hopped off of the golf cart and went inside the truck. Before leaving, they offered me to come with, but I declined, saying I had to be home by 8 p.m. They laughed and made fun of me for having a curfew as they sped off into the night. So I drove home, kinda bummed that I wasn't able to go with my friends to the house party they were going to. As this thought lingered in my mind, it quickly vanished as I had to slam on the brakes so I didn't hit what was now standing in front of me. It was a deer standing there, looking directly into my eyes. This deer had black, putrid eyes, which made me uneasy. The deer didn't move a muscle. It just stared at me with a blank expression. I slowly crept the golf cart closer to the deer and was surprised by how smart this deer was. I crept up in an attempt to scare it off so it would move out of the way, and much to my demise, it just stood there as its eyes peered into the depths of my soul. At this point, I was freaked out. The sidewalk I was on was really narrow and slim, so the only option I had was to go around this deer. But to do that, I would have to go onto the main road and turn back onto the sidewalk. I looked behind me at the road as cars came passing by, and when the road cleared, I went onto the main road and drove directly forward until I had passed the deer that was still standing on the sidewalk, staring at me. Once I passed the deer, I turned the golf cart back onto the sidewalk before continuing on back to my house. I looked back once more, and what I saw gave me the most uncomfortable feeling I'd ever felt in my entire life. The deer that was once standing on all fours was now standing upright on its hind legs. The deer's back was completely straight, and I felt the hairs in the back of my neck stand up as I got goosebumps upon seeing this. I floored it back to my house, not looking back once. If you enjoy these stories and want to hear more, consider subscribing. Thank you very much, and I'll see you on the next video.